Elon Musk shocks the world, reuniting with his black son and an unknown millionaire Mendigo. The headline exploded everywhere, flashing in bright red across every screen. But something felt off, because this wasn't Elon Musk. Not exactly. It was Jonathan Miller, the glittering titan of tech, the man who built an empire from scratch. And this shocker, his own son, was caught on camera, laughing and chatting like old friends with a ragged homeless man no one had ever seen before. Only, this man wasn't just anyone. Rumors swirled wildly. Whispers said he was a millionaire, hiding behind the dirt and torn clothes of the city street. People couldn't believe their eyes. How in the world had Jonathan's brilliant teenage son, Alex, forged a bond with this Mendigo, this scruffy shadow who looked a century too old for his shoes? The man's eyes burned bright with stories untold and secrets darker than the night. His smile cracked wide, oddly gentle, while the crowd around them shot sharp, confused stares. Cameras clicked, mouths murmured, and the whole scene cracked open a stubborn can of social rage. Jonathan stood frozen in photographs, the stiff, polished dad wearing his usual crisp suit, hands clenched so tightly his knuckles blanched white. The buzz roared louder as hashtags raced across feeds. Hashtag homeless millionaire, hashtag tech air scandal, hashtag class war explosion. Comments screamed judgment, disgust, even threats. How could his son hang with a nobody? One post hissed. What dirt is he hiding? Another spat. The divide yawned deep, raw, and dangerous. Jonathan's chest tightened, breath short. His heart thudded, sharp and wild, trembling under the weight of a storm he never saw coming. Behind closed doors, the house pulsed with unease. Alex's bright eyes held nothing but warmth and wonder. That bond? Real, honest. But to Jonathan, it was a threat, a crack in the perfect armor he'd built around their name. Old family secrets crept from shadows, whispers clawing at his mind. What tangled past linked this ragged man to their dynasty? The more Jonathan tried to push the story away, the darker and louder the noise grew. Calls from PR flooded in. Friends whispered with anxious smiles. Reportes circle like hungry vultures. Social media quemó con Angus. The scandal wasn't simply about a friendship in the street. It was an espejo reflecting cada estigma, cada punche de prejuicio atacando las ciudades agrietas. Then, just cuando Jonathan pensaba encontrar algún pie, su teléfono basó con un nuevo mensaje, anónimo, corto, frío, indicaba un secreto cerrado más que cualquier mención. Secreto fuerte a su propia sangre, uno que podía jatar todo lo que apuesto a estar construyendo. La confianza o el mala vía ferretaba de aquel hato. ¿Quién estaba poniendo todo este camino? Furiosa, Bori de entrada a su mente. Jonathan felt torn apart between protecting his son's pure friendship and shielding his family's fragile legacy. Between the truth aching to be seen and the lies that kept their world standing. The city waited with bated breath, and in the silence that followed the latest revelation, one haunting question hung in the air. What if the biggest threat wasn't the scandal, but what had been buried long ago? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participa. The storm grew wilder outside, crackling like nerve endings on high alert. Jonathan's phone lay ominously silent in his palm, but the buzzing chaos in his chest felt louder than ever. He paced the polished floor, breaths short, each one cutting through a thick tension that suffocated him. Alex's laughter replayed in his mind, warm and innocent, but it collided with the icy dread of secrets clawing at the edges of their world. He shot a glance at the door, half expecting it to burst open with a reporter brandishing a microphone, poised to tear apart their lives. But he wasn't ready for the twist fate had in store. Just then, the door creaked, and Alex stumbled in, wide-eyed. Behind him, shadows flickered with movement. "What is it?" Jonathan said, stepping closer, heart pounding like a drum. Alex unfolded the paper, fingers trembling. "I found this in the old shed out back. It doesn't make sense." He opened it, and the words seemed to leap off the page, scrawled in frantic ink. It was an old newspaper clipping. The headline screamed, "Mysterious Millionaire Vanishes." Jonathan grabbed it, scanning the paragraph. It mentioned a man. A tech pioneer who had mysteriously disappeared just before a scandal enveloped his name. And then the name hit him like a slap. Tommy Ricardo. Images flooded his mind. Family dinners, shared laughter, memories dipped in nostalgia. But Tommy was more than just a family friend. He was Jonathan's childhood companion, someone he'd lost track of years ago, someone whispered to have lost everything. He was supposed to go to jail for his crimes. Or maybe he was framed, Alex suggested, eyes wide with realization. What if he's that homeless man? Before anything more could be said, a loud crash resounded from the back door, the sound splintering the tense air. The door swung open, revealing the same ragged figure from the park, a dirt-smeared face lit by a haunted smile. The crowd, lurking behind him, recoiled, unsure, mouths agape with questions. "Tommy?" Jonathan's voice wobbled. He couldn't believe it. Was this man really his childhood friend? The same Tommy rumored to have vanished? "Jonathan," Tommy said, his voice raspy yet filled with warmth. "I've been waiting to find you for a long time." Gasps erupted. Whispers ignited like wildfire, rippling through the eager crowd behind him, the reality twisting into something shocking. Tommy took a step forward, every gaze glued to him, as if he was unveiling a long-kept secret. But then, without warning, a loud siren wailed in the distance, a harsh reminder of the world outside this revelation. Jonathan felt every pulse quicken, every heartbeat match the urgency filling the space. Tommy raised a hand, eyes intense. "You think it was random that Alex chose to befriend me?" "What do you mean?" Jonathan demanded, incredulity morphing into unease. As the storm howled louder, Tommy leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper, but heavy with hidden truths. Because he's the one person tied to the legacy that could bring us all down. A chill spiraled through Jonathan's veins, his heart hurling headlong into a sea of confusion. What did you say? Just then, a brilliant flash of lightning lit the room, illuminating faces washed in shock and disbelief. Everything froze for a heartbeat. Every breath held. Alex shifted nervously, and suddenly it all clicked. A horrific connection that shattered Jonathan's perception. He stumbled back, the walls of his world tilting. No, it can't be. Tommy smiled, the smile that cut deeper than a knife, revealing the truth he had long buried. You need to know who the real heir is, and it's not you. As powerful gusts swirled outside, Jonathan stood at the brink, throat dry, the foundation of his life trembling. The mystery wrapped around him. Tight! He had to know. How had everything changed? Who was really hiding the true story? The city held its breath, and beneath the storm's fury, chaos loomed just ahead. The air thickened as Jonathan wrestled with whispers of betrayal. The storm outside howled, pounding against the windows like 1,000 accusations. His phone buzzed again, demanding his attention. The screen flashed cold words that sent jolts of dread racing through him. Meet me at the old pier. Jonathan felt a shiver. Why there? He glanced at the clock. Time seemed to warp, each second stretching into an eternity. How had a simple moment spiraled into this chaos? Alex's laughter echoed in his mind. Jonathan shut his eyes, gritting his teeth. He needed to protect his son, protect his legacy. The stakes surged. Each call from the PR team felt like nails pounding into his resolve. This was spiraling out of control. He hurried away from the suffocating house. The rain slapped against his face as he stepped outside. He felt alive, the cool air biting through the layers of his anxiety. And yet... What? What a course! Into one little son! He felt hollow. What awaited him at the pier? As he approached the jagged edge of the water, the waves crashed. The sound, a chaotic symphony of his racing heart. A figure lingered under the old lighthouse. Was it the man from the photo? Could he hold the answers Jonathan feared yet craved? Why here? Jonathan nearly shouted against the wind. The man turned slowly. It was him, ragged clothes, unkempt hair, and those dark, haunting eyes. A chill crept down Jonathan's spine. He was lost, a stranger from another world. The man stepped closer, uncertainty painted across his features. The truth breathes here, Jonathan. It's time to unmask it. His voice, rough like gravel, felt unnervingly familiar. Jonathan felt his chest tighten. What do you know? What you've buried, the man whispered. You think Alex is safe, but I carry a piece of this family's story you've locked away. What are you talking about? Panic clawed at Jonathan's throat. Then, without warning, a gut-wrenching scream pierced the air. Both men froze. A crowd gathered near the water's edge, gasping, horror painting their faces. Jonathan's heart plummeted as he rushed toward the commotion. There, lying on the soaked ground, was Alex, crumpled and still. The world fell silent around him. The rain blurred their faces, but Jonathan could see fear and confusion reflected in every pair of eyes. "Call for help," Jonathan yelled, his voice cracking. The crowd's murmurs turned into frantic shouting, chaos swirling like the storm above. He knelt beside Alex, shaking, desperation overtaking him. "Alex, baby, can you hear me?" But it was too late. The fluorescent lights of an ambulance flashed in the distance, bright and cold. The man stepped beside him, eyes wide with something Jonathan couldn't read. "You need to listen now. Secrets have a way of surfacing. This isn't just about your family." His voice trembled, carrying urgency so thick Jonathan could taste it. Jonathan's world spun. He glanced up at the man's face. Who was he really? It felt twisted, the connection they had yet to understand. What had he hidden inside the walls of his own life? And as the paramedics arrived, the real revelation hit like lightning. Was Alex's bond with the Mendigo more than just friendship? The question clawed at Jonathan's mind. What if this chaos wasn't just about a friendship, but a lineage, a tie stronger than blood, lurking beneath the surface? The storm raged on, both outside and within, and for Jonathan Miller, everything he believed to be true hung by a thread, ready to snap. Jonathan cradled Alex's still form, his heart racing as shadows danced in the flickering lights of the ambulance. Panic surged, tightening around his throat. Time slowed. Each breath felt heavy and thick. Sirens wailed, a chaotic chorus blending with the pounding rain. Around him, people gasped. Shock painted their faces under the eerie glow. "Please, Alex, wake up!" Jonathan trembled, shaking him gently. Tears stung his eyes, blurring everything. The crowd began to murmur. Whispers of fear slithered through the air, carrying judgment, panic, a stark reminder of the fragile world he built. Tommy, the ragged figure, remained close, his eyes fixed on Alex. "This wasn't an accident, Jonathan," he whispered. His voice was urgent, like a deep bell tolling ominously in the distance. "What do you mean?" Jonathan shot back, frustration burning. "He needs help." But it was too late. The paramedics rushed in, their faces grim as they assessed the situation. Jonathan barely heard their instructions. Tommy stepped closer, urgency crackling in the air. "You don't understand. This isn't just a friendship. It's bigger than that." "Alexis!" A sudden scream pierced the growing storm, more chilling than any thunder. From the gathered crowd, a woman stumbled forward, eyes wide. "He's not just friends with the Mendigo. He's part of the family." All eyes turned, gasps rippled, shock pulsing like electricity. The woman's breath hitched, her face pale, with both fear and certainty. "I didn't want to say it, but Alex, he's your brother!" Jonathan recoiled as if struck. "No, that's impossible!" His mind raced in spirals, every thought crashing like waves against the rocky shore. "You're wrong." But the truth loomed in the air, thick and suffocating. Contexts shifted, memories twisted. The secrets he had held buried under layers of wealth and status rose to the surface, writhing like serpents. Alex was supposed to be his only son. "No, this can't be real." Jonathan clutched his head, frustration and confusion swirling violently. "Your father, he knew," the woman pressed, taking a step closer, tears glistening in her eyes. "Tommy, he's been trying to protect you both. There was a scandal long ago, a bloodline twisted by lies. Jonathan's breath caught. His childhood friend was more than just a shadow of the past. He was a link to a nightmare he had closed his eyes to. Did his legacy rest on secrets that threatened to unravel everything? As the paramedics prepared to lift Alex onto a stretcher, Tommy stepped aside, pressing a slip of paper into Jonathan's hand. This is the key, the truth you need to face. Jonathan turned it over, the rain smudging ink as last-minute screams echoed. Tommy, wait! What is this? The man stepped back, the storm swirling around them, the headlights of the ambulance slicing through the downpour. The past is never truly gone, Jonathan. You have to learn who you are, who Alex really is. Before Jonathan could respond, a flash of lightning illuminated the scene, and everything froze for a heartbeat. The crowd held their breath, eyes glued to him. Jonathan's heart raced, but he felt anchored, crushed between the weight of truth and the fear of what lay ahead. The world felt on fire, bright with revelations. As he glanced at the slip of paper, a single thought pierced through. What if everything he thought he knew was built on lies? And in that moment, as chaos swirled, Jonathan received a text. Meet me where it all began. Your life depends on it. Thunder cracked, shaking the ground beneath him. What had he unleashed? The silence buzzed with uncertainty, thick as fog. Jonathan stared at his phone, heart racing. The storm outside raged against the windows, wind howling around the house like a creature from the depths. He needed answers. Alex's laughter echoed from the living room, and Jonathan's stomach twisted. How could his son be so carefree when chaos loomed? With every heartbeat, doubt clawed at him deeper. Was Alex truly just a child playing with a scruffy stranger? Or was there something darker, a thread connecting their lives in ways he never imagined? In a burst of frustration, Jonathan stormed into the room. The warmth from the fire flickered over Alex and the Mendigo, glowing in a hue that felt almost surreal, yet the chasm between them felt icy. Alex! Jonathan's voice was sharp, cutting through the warmth like glass. You need to come here now! Alex turned, startled. The homeless man, whose name Jonathan still didn't know, glanced at him with a knowing smile that sent a chill up Jonathan's spine. He wasn't just a beggar, or so the rumors hinted. There was something else beneath the surface that gnawed at Jonathan's composure. I was just talking, Alex began. But Jonathan wouldn't let him finish. Enough, he snapped, anger boiling over. He felt a tightness in his throat, the edges of his perfect world crumbling. This man could be anyone. We don't know his story. But before the words could settle, a loud crash erupted outside, startling everyone. The windows rattled as a flash of lightning lit up the night, illuminating a figure darting past the house. Then came a loud bang, and the power flickered before plunging the room into darkness. Panic surged through Jonathan's veins. Stay here, he shouted over the crashing thunder, bolting towards the front door. The world outside was wild, rain hammering against the ground, and shadows moved hastily, disappearing into the downpour. Just as he opened the door, a man rushed in, drenched and breathless. Jonathan froze. His expression twisted into shock. This wasn't just any stranger. The man's features were hauntingly familiar. Eyes dark and piercing. It was his estranged brother, Benjamin, the black sheep of the family, whom Jonathan had fought to forget. Why now? Jonathan thought, heart racing. What are you doing here? Jonathan's voice was a whispered thunder filled with both fear and adrenaline. The house felt smaller, walls closing in on him. Jonathan, you have to listen. It's about Alex. Benjamin gasped, rain pooling at his feet. That man, he's not who you think. He knows something about Dad. Something you have to know. The words froze Jonathan. The room fell silent. Reality gripped by a heavy weight as the Mendigo rose from his chair. His eyes shifting from surprise to something deeper. Recognition? Your father, he wasn't the man you thought he was. The Mendigo spoke, voice low and crackling like dry leaves. Jonathan's head spun. His heart pounded wildly against his ribs. Was this all a trap? Panic clawed at him, threatening to unravel the very fabric of everything he believed. What are you talking about? Who are you? But before the Mendigo could answer, another violent flash of lightning erupted overhead, illuminating the room just enough for Jonathan to see Alex's face, wide-eyed, mouth agape. The truth hung thick in the air, and in that moment of raw, stripped-back fear, Jonathan realized he was standing on the brink of a reality that would shatter everything. Family secrets lay buried deeper than he could have ever imagined. Outside, the storm raged on, but now it felt like it was inside him. How could he protect his son when the danger was rooted in their very blood? Every instinct screamed that they were not safe. Not anymore. The pieces of his life danced tantalizingly out of reach, and he felt the tides turning violently. The next move would change everything. The storm picked up outside, a heavy drum of thunder pounding against the windows. Inside, Jonathan felt the air tighten like a noose around his throat. The buzzing in his pocket had morphed into a chaotic chorus of dread. He glanced at his phone, heart racing as he read the chilling words again. You have family you don't know about. Time to find out. Sweat trickled down his brow. Family? What did that even mean? Shaking, he pocketed the phone and stormed into the living room, where Alex laughed with the mysterious man. It twisted his gut. Alex, we need to talk. Alex's smile faded. Dad, please, just let me... No, this isn't how it works. You don't just... But Jonathan's voice cracked, faltering under the weight of his own fear. The man, watching silently, lifted his head. His eyes glinted, impossibly sharp amidst the chaos of his appearance. This boy sees the world differently than most. His gravelly voice cut through the tension. Shut up, Jonathan snapped, feeling unhinged. Yet, some piece of him was drawn to the man's unspoken strength. Something that felt drawn from deep within a well of untold truths. What do you want, old man? A handout? A seat at our table? A thick silence hung. The weight of the crowd's judgment pressing down like a physical force. The whispers grew louder, a collective murmur echoing through the room. Who is he? What does he want? Is this a publicity stunt? The man stood up slowly. You don't understand. I came to save your son. Save you both." Jonathan scoffed. "Save us? From what? A bad reputation?" "No." The man took a step forward, the crowd instinctively recoiling. "From a truth you bury deep. So deep, the day will come when it will swallow you whole." At that moment, a flicker of recognition crossed Jonathan's face, and his breath caught in his throat. "What do you mean?" "Your family is intertwined with mine," the man stated, voice steady as stone. "There's a reason Alex feels connected to me. There's a reason he's drawn into this mess. And it isn't just friendship." Jonathan felt a rush of heat explode in his chest. Secrets? His mind raced, digging through layers of old family stories. The ones he wanted to keep buried. The ones he had silenced. "What are you talking about?" Suddenly, the power flickered, the lights buzzed, and a piercing scream sliced through the air. The crowd jumped, eyes wide, and Jonathan spun around. A figure staggered into the room, hands clutching his chest, eyes wild with fear. I know everything!" he screamed, collapsing to the floor. His shirt soaked with crimson, pooling below him. "They're coming! They know!" Chaos erupted. Alex's face went pale. The laughter wiped clean, replaced by a haunting expression. Jonathan felt ice seep into his veins. "Get an ambulance!" someone shouted, but no one moved. The reality of the moment swept like fire through the room. Everything burned hot. Fear, confusion, anger. What did this stranger know? What secrets were tangled in their lives, ready to unravel? Jonathan's thoughts spiraled, the weight mounting, squeezing with each passing second. And as the sirens approached in the distance, echoing like a death knell, one shocking reality dawned on him. What if this was the beginning of a nightmare he could never wake up from? The silence that lingered after the revelation felt like an encroaching storm. Jonathan could practically hear the pounding in his ears. The world outside seemed to pulse with frantic energy. Yet all he could focus on was the glow of his phone, the ominous darkness of that anonymous message looming over him. Who would do this? He whispered to himself, shutting his eyes against the surrounding chaos. But he couldn't shake the fear. Every secret he had buried for years threatened to rise. What if the man Alex had befriended was not a mere nobody, but a piece of their family's fractured history? Suddenly, the air chilled. A loud crash splintered the tension, followed by cries from the crowd outside. Jonathan jumped, heart racing, and bolted to the window. A car had smashed into a lamppost, glass shards glittering like lost stars in the street. People rushed to the scene, a tide of shock and panic washing over them. "Dad!" came Alex's voice, cutting through the noise. Jonathan turned to see his son's face, wide-eyed and trembling. What if he's hurt? "Stay here!" Jonathan barked, urgency lacing his words. But he knew he couldn't ignore this. He couldn't now, not with the world crumbling around them. With one last glance at Alex, he tore out the door, the hallway echoing his frantic steps. Outside, the smell of burnt rubber and fear mingled in the air. Jonathan pushed through the gawking crowd, adrenaline burning in his veins. Then he saw it. The Mendigo, the ragged man, was stretching out his arm, reaching toward the crash site. His eyes, the ones that sparkled with an understanding beyond his years, now glowed with desperation. "Get away from the car," he shouted, urgency spilling from his lips. But it was too late. The thrumming of alarms shrieked through the air. The front of the car crumpled inwards, smoke rising like a ghost. Jonathan felt his heart drop into his stomach as he watched the scene unfold. Without thinking, he lunged forward, breaking free from the crowd. "What are you doing?" he shouted, panic rising as the Mendigo moved closer, fearless, determined. Then, as if in slow motion, the ground quaked beneath them. A loud bang echoed. The vehicle exploded. A blinding flash lit the night. The force of the blast knocked Jonathan to the asphalt. He shielded himself as debris rained down. For a moment, everything was chaos. Flames licking, people screaming. He crawled away from the danger, struggling to breathe, the taste of smoke sharp in his throat. And then it registered. The Mendigo was gone. "No!" Jonathan screamed, scrambling to his feet as he dove through the debris. Panic surged through him. Where was Alex? He whipped around, scanning the crowd, desperate to find his son's familiar face. But people were crying, shouting, confusion reigned. And then he heard it, a voice, shaky yet commanding. "Stay back!" It was Alex, bundled in a blanket, eyes filled with fear, pointing back toward the inferno. "Alex, I'm coming!" Jonathan barked, but as he pushed through the crowd, an icy chill gripped him. He didn't just see fear on Alex's face. He saw something deeper, something that felt familiar, yet terrifying. Behind Alex stood a figure, shrouded in smoke and light. Jonathan blinked, heart racing as the sight sunk in. For a fleeting moment, the world stilled. The Mendigo stood there, his eyes piercing through the chaos, a knowing smile etched across his face. But this time, it was different. He didn't look ragged. He looked regal. Had he been hiding all along? Confusion engulfed Jonathan as he felt a sickening twist in his stomach. Who was this man? What had just happened? Fear morphed into something darker as shadows of long-buried truths seeped into the light. His gut churned with uncertainty, and before Jonathan could voice his questions, the air crackled with a sudden energy that promised nothing but upheaval. What did this mean for Alex, for their family? The storm was just beginning. The Mendigo stood there, alive among the chaos, his presence a flickering flame in a world turned dark. Jonathan's heart raced. Could this man truly be connected to their fractured family? The crowd was frozen in shock, whispers spreading like wildfire, but none of it mattered. All he could think about was reaching Alex, pulling him from the edge of this nightmare. But the Mendigo held his gaze, those piercing eyes filled with so many untold stories. "You don't understand," he said, voice barely a whisper over the cacophony. "What's about to happen will change everything." Then, with a swift movement, he stepped forward, closing the distance. "You need to brace yourself," he warned, a serious tone lacing his gravelly voice. Jonathan felt a knot forming in his stomach. What did this man know that he didn't? Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed, but it wasn't thunder. No, something was happening, something unnatural. The ground began to shake beneath them, tremors sending waves through the crowd. People stumbled, gasping, clutching one another for support. Jonathan caught sight of Alex's face, confusion igniting in his wide eyes. "Dad!" Alex cried out, fear blooming in his voice. "Stay close!" Jonathan shouted. But as he stepped forward to shield his son, a blinding flash erupted behind them. The ground split open, a deep crack snaking through the pavement. Gasps filled the air. "What is happening?" someone shrieked. "That's impassable!" another voice echoed in disbelief. The crack widened, revealing a swirling light, pulsating with energy. Jonathan backed away instinctively, holding on to Alex, his breath shallow. The Mendigo stepped closer to the crack, unwavering, his face illuminated with an eerie glow. "Come with me if you want to save him," he shouted, his voice firm, filled with urgency. "What are you talking about?" Jonathan shrieked, panic clawing at his throat. "Who are you? Time is running out. You need to trust me." Before Jonathan could even process the words, the ground roared, ripping asunder. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the depths, a woman, silhouetted against the ethereal light. The crowd gasped and recoiled in fear, but Jonathan felt a strange pull. Recognition pierced through the chaos like lightning. "Mom!" The word slipped from his lips, an echo of disbelief. His mother had been gone for decades. "Jonathan!" Her voice dripped with sweetness and sorrow, yet something felt off. Tremors intensified, the piles of dirt and stone collapsing into the fissure. "No! This can't be!" Jonathan screamed, feeling the earth shift beneath his feet. The Mendigo backed away, urgency spiking in his voice. "You need to decide. Your family's fate hangs in the balance. Will you face the truth?" "What truth?" Jonathan shouted back, anger boiling. The storm inside him swelled. "You're telling me my mother? She has secrets she took to her grave. Secrets that could destroy everything." The ground shook violently as if punctuating his words. Jonathan could feel the weight of everything, the lies, the tangled web of family history. It felt as if the universe itself demanded his attention. With a final roar, the crack exploded upward, hurling shards of earth into the air. The Mendigo Lujo launched forward, arms outstretched, his face a mix of desperation and resolve. "Now!" he yelled. Jonathan's heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. What if this was the moment he could uncover everything? What if it was a trap? "Get back!" Benjamin shouted, pushing past the others, eyes wide with fear as he faced their mother. "You're dead!" The crowd gasped, shock washing over them like a wave. "Not dead," she replied, smiling cryptically. "Just hidden away." But before anything else could be said, the earth surged as if reacting to their words. The air crackled, and Jonathan felt now, standing on the brink of revelation, the weight of his entire life about to shatter like glass. Everything he thought he knew slipped away, swallowed by the chasm. The truth lingered like dark clouds overhead. Would he leap into the unknown? Or retreat back into the safety of lies? "Jonathan!" his mother called, voice soft and haunting, filled with the gravity of the unknown. And just like that, silence fell over them. As the world teetered on the edge of a discovery that would change everything, the silence fell thick around them, punctuated only by the frantic pounding of Jonathan's heart. His mother's voice echoed in his mind, a siren call from years buried deep. "Hidden away," he whispered, grappling with the weight of her words. What secrets? Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them again, and without warning, the fissure widened violently. Everyone staggered back, screams colliding with the roar of the storm above. Jonathan felt that familiar tightness in his chest, fear clawing at his throat. He had to protect Alex. "Mom!" he shouted, though uncertainty gripped him. "What are you doing here?" But she only smiled, a strange glint in her eye. "There are truths you're not ready for, Jonathan. I've come to help you find them." But before she could say more, a blinding flash lit the scene again. This time, it wasn't just the lightning. A figure emerged from the crack. Tangled in shadow and light, it stepped forward, revealing a woman. She moved with a purpose, her eyes locked on Jonathan. But before he could process who she was, a scream sliced through the night. "Mom!" Alex shouted, jolting back in fear, as the floodlights of the ambulance illuminated the woman's face. The sight set Jonathan's stomach twisting. This wasn't just any woman. It couldn't be. But it was. Rebecca Miller, his estranged sister, his father's hidden daughter, the family secret buried deeper than any of them had imagined. She had been lost for so long. "Rebecca!" Jonathan's voice trailed off, shock making his legs feel weak. "You're alive?" The crowd buzzed, murmurs whispering like tumbleweeds across the empty space. "What the? Who is she? How is she here?" "Jonathan, I had to come," Rebecca said, voice fierce despite the chaos that swirled around them. "It's not just about family. It's about legacy. Everything Dad built is at stake." Before he could respond, the crack in the earth erupted again, sending shockwaves through the crowd. "Everyone back!" Paramedics shouted, and panic surged. But as Jonathan took a step back, the ground beneath them started to glow, a pulsing light emerging from the chasm. The crowd fell silent, entranced, eyes wide. "Jonathan!" shouted Rebecca, urgency twisting her features. "You need to understand this. Our family was never what you thought, and Alex, he's more than just your son." "What do you mean?" Panic clawed at Jonathan's throat. He felt as if the walls were closing in. "What does that even mean?" Then the ground split apart, splitting reality into shards. From the depths, whispers grew louder, weaving through the air. Each syllable felt like a dagger, driving straight to his heart. "He's tied to something bigger, something we buried, something that can destroy us all." Just as Jonathan's breath caught, the Mendigo stepped forward, his eyes fierce. "Enough! Let him choose!" In a heartbeat, an explosion of light blasted outward, illuminating everything, blinding him for a moment. And as his vision cleared, a figure stood in the glow, an older man, face shadowed but familiar. "Your father," the Mendigo said, voice thick with emotion. The crowd gasped, shock palpable as the figure stepped closer, revealing a face Jonathan had seen only once in photographs. His father, alive, hidden within the chaos he thought was reality. Questions swirled wildly in Jonathan's mind, panic bubbling beneath the surface. "Dad?" But before he could reach out, the world began to fade. Everything he thought he understood slipped away. And then came the words that echoed in his soul. "You were never just a Miller. Jonathan stumbled back, the weight of revelation crashing down. What had he missed? What lay buried beneath their lives? As the chaos grew louder, he realized the storm had only just begun. The truth stretched like shadows in the night, ready to consume them all. The storm raged on, but Jonathan felt a strange calm wash over him as he faced the reality of his mother standing before him. The past, alive in a way he never thought possible, whispered secrets he longed to hear but feared to accept. You never told us," he stammered, heart pounding as he struggled for breath. "Because it was too dangerous, Jonathan," Rebecca said, stepping forward, eyes filled with urgency. "The truth about Dad, about our family, it's tangled in darkness. But you need to know, now more than ever, for you and Alex." Jonathan's gaze shifted to Alex, who stood frozen, eyes wide in confusion. "Dad?" he murmured, looking for an anchor in the chaos. Jonathan reached for him, pulling him close. The weight of this moment anchored them. The figures around them faded into a blur as Jonathan focused on his family. The ground shook violently again, but they stood rooted in each other's presence. The Mendigo, Tommy, moved to them, urgency etched in his features. "Listen," he urged. "This isn't just about a lost father or a hidden family. This is a warning." A crack of thunder rumbled through the air, shaking the very ground beneath them. Jonathan held Alex tightly, grounding them both against the swell of fear. "What kind of warning?" he demanded, his voice steady despite the chaos. "What do we have to face?" "It's not just whispers in the shadows, it's a legacy that could tear you apart," Tommy replied, voice grave. "They're coming for you, for your family. You have enemies you don't know about." Jonathan's chest tightened with every word. The crowd was still, the air thick with tension. What had he walked into? The storm outside paled in comparison to the storm brewing within. "We'll face them," Jonathan said firmly, holding Alex's gaze. "Together. I won't let anything happen to my family." Just then, another figure stepped out from the shadows of the crowd. A woman with fierce determination gripped her jaw, had made her way through the panic. "I'm with you," she shouted, her voice resonating with strength. "I know the truth. We can help each other." The crowd murmured, aware that something pivotal was happening. Jonathan was terrified and relieved all at once. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about unity, about survival. Their eyes met, and in that moment, everything shifted. The tension evaporated, replaced by a fierce resolve. Jonathan felt something warm light within him, pushing back against the darkness that loomed. "Let's end this cycle once and for all." The storm raged on, but they stood tall, together. They wouldn't back down. With Alex by his side and newfound allies around him, Jonathan knew they were about to change the narrative, their narrative. As the crowd rallied, the energy surged, embers igniting hope. Jonathan felt the weight lift. The past would no longer dictate their lives. And then, just as swiftly, a shadow flickered over the horizon, a reminder that challenges lay ahead. "We've got to move," Tommy urged, his eyes scanning the surroundings. "We need to prepare, and it will be a fight." But Jonathan, a fire ignited within him, took a step forward, fiercely protective. "Whatever it takes, we'll fight together. We will face it." As they united, ready to face the unknown, a flicker of light broke through the storm. The first hint of dawn breaking on the horizon, filled with promise. But what would that dawn bring? With uncertainty heavy in the air and battles on the horizon, the story was far from over. Now, before you go, this is the moment to show your support. You have to subscribe now so you won't miss the upcoming exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more true fans like you. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Don't wait even a second longer to share.